Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining the webinar today, and great to have so many people with us, and also great to have Lynda Tomarelli, sorry Lynda,
okay.
who is a speech language therapist with SpeakUnique, and she's going to tell us about all the work that they're doing with voice banking and voice repair. Actually, Lynda's based in Edinburgh, so the company's based in Edinburgh, quite close to home. And what I'll do is I'm just going to pop their web address into the chat pane, so you can see, if you want to have a look at the website, you can do that. And I've also got Lynda's email address, and I'll pop that in as well. Okay, so Lynda's going to spend the next 20 minutes or so just telling us about the work that she's doing, and then there'll be an opportunity at the end to ask questions. Okay, Lynda, over to you. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for joining me. So, as Craig mentioned, my name is Lynda Tomarelli, and I'm a speech and language therapist working for SpeakUnique. So, SpeakUnique create personalised synthetic voices for use in communication aids for people who have lost or will lose their speech due to a medical condition. We launched our service in June 2020, and it followed a number of years of research based at the University of Edinburgh and in collaboration with the Anne Rowling Clinic, the Hugh MacDonald Centre, and with funding from the Scottish Government. And combined expertise in informatics and speech therapy allowed us to develop an accessible voice banking solution, after we realised there was an unmet need to provide personalised synthetic voices simply and quickly for people who may lose their speech, and also crucially for those with impaired speech or unintelligible speech. So I'm going to give an overview of our voice banking services. I'm first of all going to cover what is voice banking, then our voice banking services and who can benefit, how to voice bank with SpeakUnique, how to access the voice, and then, as Craig mentioned, there'll be time for questions at the end. So this is our homepage, which I think you can see in your background as well. For anyone who hasn't, I would encourage you to go to our website, which is www.speakunique.co.uk. We have lots more information about our voice bank services, lots of voice samples, so you can hear a range of accents and a range of voice repairs. And there's also a professionals area with resources for professionals. I'm just going to try and click to the next. So just to give an overview or a definition of voice banking to begin, voice banking is the term given to the process of recording your voice and then using this recording to generate a personalised synthetic voice. This synthetic voice can then be used on a device where it converts text into speech, so allowing an individual to communicate with a voice that is identifiably their own, even though it's synthetic. So on to our voice products. We offer different services dependent on people's speech needs. So the first product is Voice Build, and this is for people who have a medical diagnosis, but their speech is not yet affected.
She can scoop these things into 3 red bags, and we will go meet her on Wednesday at the train station.
Ahead of me here. That was a sample of a recording. I think I've clicked play. Okay. And this is then the synthetic version.
She can scoop these things into 3 red bags, and we will go meet her Wednesday at the train station.
So basically, it's a synthetic replica of the person's voice, where they have a diagnosis, for example, MND, but it's limb onset MND, so their speech is not yet affected. So the second product that we offer, and hopefully this will wait for me to play it, is voice repair. And this is something that came out of the years of research that we did. It became really clear that there was nothing on the market for people who wanted to voice bank, but whose first symptoms appeared in their speech. So for example, bulbar onset MND, one of the things that can lead to diagnosis is apparent in their speech. First of all, their speech starts to slow or to slur. And with traditional voice banking methods, these symptoms are replicated in the synthetic voice. So there was, before us, no solution to voice banking for people who had impaired speech. However, what we can do is take a recording of the speech as it is, and using our technology, we can repair it, so we can remove where the symptoms are.
Scoop these things into.
So sorry, that's got carried away again. So we can make it sound like the person's voice before it was impaired. And I'm going to play you a quick example. So this is just a recording of a gentleman's speech, which is very mildly impaired.
She can scoop these things.
Sorry, I'm having a few technical difficulties.
She can scoop these things into 3 red bags, and we will go meet her Wednesday at the train station.
Okay, and then this is his synthetic voice.
She can scoop these things into 3 red bags, and we will go meet her Wednesday at the train station.
So as you can hear, we've smoothed it out and removed the sort of halting quality that as a result of his MND. And the third product that we offer for patients is a voice design. So again, this was a huge sort of gap in the market or unmet need for people who don't have intelligible speech but use AAC to communicate. So for example, children or adults with cerebral palsy use a generic synthetic voice, but they don't have an opportunity to create a voice that sounds how they would want to sound. So with voice design, it's very collaborative. We work with the patient and they can tell us how they want to sound, what accent they think they should have to fit in with where they live or their family. And we can also make it sound more age appropriate. So this is just an overview of the processes involved in voice banking with SpeakUnique. So first of all, the person registers. So on the home page, I'm going to show you in a second, there's a sign up button. People then submit information about themselves and set up a password before moving on to record. The recording process is fairly short. We ask for around 150 sentences. To record, you need a microphone that plugs into your laptop or your computer, although we are working on the capability for recording on tablets and iPads. The next step is to submit the recordings once you've completed them, and once they're submitted, the synthetic voice is generated and the user will receive an email notification that their voice is ready, and they can then log back in and listen to samples, which is step 4. For voice build, it's a synthetic replica, so there's one sample generated. However, for voice repair, there are 5 different versions of the voice that are generated, and this is something that we've had very positive feedback on. So it allows the user to select the voice that either sounds most like them or the most clear or just the voice that they identify most with, and they're always very happy that family members can be involved in this process of listening to these samples and choosing a voice, because quite often family members sort of know more accurately how the person sounds. So the final step is to pay and apply for funding, and the reason this comes at the end is because we were very keen that people get to hear their synthetic voice before they pay or download it, to make sure that they're happy with it. And you can also apply for funding, which I'll talk about in a minute. And then the very final step is to download the voice, and it's available on Apple and Android products through our app, which we designed, and also in a SAPI 5 version for Windows devices. So a little bit more detail about what the registration process looks like. You can see we've highlighted the sign up login button. We were very keen that patients could go straight to the website and voice bank as independently as possible. It's not something they need to wait to be referred for, so it can be done very quickly and very efficiently as soon as they decide that that's what they want to do. And they also, which I'll go into more detail, see a lot of training videos and tips on how to create a really high quality recording. So we start by asking for an email address and a little bit more information, and asking them to create a password. And then you can see there are 3 different options. So the first is for people who have a medical condition, and we have the symbols for build, repair and design. The next option is voice save. So this is not for patients, it's not for people who have a medical diagnosis. It's for people who want to record their voice and we store it, and should they go on to develop something that would affect their speech in the future, they can then convert it into a synthetic voice. And the other option that's here that I'd like to encourage people to use if they would like to is we're currently offering healthcare professionals the opportunity to go through the process and receive a synthetic voice for free, because we want to enable healthcare professionals to better support the patients who would like to voice bank with us. And that's something that we can be, we're happy for people to email us directly. So because today we're focusing on patients, this first box is the one that people will click. And so we ask for a little bit more information about their medical diagnosis and what their speech is like. How they describe their speech channels them into the appropriate voice banking product. So if their speech is not yet affected, they're channeled through Voice Build, which gives information on the price, and this What Now information box gives an overview of what's involved in a voice build. If they click that their speech is intelligible with effort or intelligible only to those who know them well, they would be channeled through a voice repair, which again, this gives the price and an overview, and explains that they'll listen to 5 different versions of their repaired synthetic voice. If they click voice design, because as I've mentioned, this is much more collaborative, we ask for a little bit more information. For example, if the person has any voice donors, or if they are currently using a communication aid, and we ask for them to describe their accent in all cases. So for voice design, I just want to say there's a number of different ways for someone to go about a voice design. So they can nominate voice donors, so these could be family members who have their desired accent or a similar age. We've also successfully created voices based on old recordings. So sometimes people have quite high quality voice memos or voice notes on their phones, or even podcast interviews or video footage. And as long as it's of a good enough quality, we're able to use that to create a synthetic voice. And another option that has come up recently is we've had people get in touch who have voice banked with a company called Model Talker, but they want to convert that into a SpeakUnique voice. So we can take that recording and use our technology to create a SpeakUnique voice for them. So we usually ask for voice design people to get in touch directly with us so that we can collaborate and design their voice with them. So once the person through all these steps and added the information that we ask for, they get a success message and they are taken to the recording screen. So as you can see, the first screen they see is a recording tutorial, and they also can see some recording tips. So the tutorial is a video which just explains how to complete the recording, what the recording screen looks like, and how to ensure you get the best quality. So we've got some tips, which are things like make sure you're in a quiet room, don't set up your recording kitchen next to the dishwasher while it's on, a little bit on the equipment that you need, which is an external microphone because it gives much better quality, and just how to make sure that you're reading naturally. We have some tips on how to position the microphone because this can make a big difference in the recording quality. And then we have a range of scripts for people to choose from. So they can choose based on what they're interested in or the type of books that they like to read. And we list them by difficulty so that if they just want to choose something easy, they can. And this is just a little bit more of an idea of how they can choose a script with us and the different genres. So we recommend people sit somewhere comfortable, they go somewhere quiet. So as I've mentioned, not at the front of the house if you're next to a busy road, or the dishwasher if it's on. Try and keep your pets quiet if you have any. We recommend people are comfortable and get themselves a glass of water because you can get quite thirsty during the recordings. I also want to say that if fatigue is an issue for people, then they are able to record in chunks, so they can do a small bit at a time, and I'll show you how. So this is the screen that they see during their recording. You can see the record button. They can click that to begin recording the sentence, and they click it again to stop. There's a playback button, so they can listen to the sentence they've just recorded. Arrow buttons to flick backwards or to move on to the next sentence. You can also use the keys on your keyboard, the space key or enter key, to record and stop recording, and the arrow keys to move forward and back sentences, just in case that's more accessible for people. And what I'm showing here is on either side of the writing is volume bar, so it shows you where to keep your volume levels so that they are optimum. And as I mentioned, you can see a save and log out button. So if the person decides 20 sentences is their limit, they can record 20 sentences, click save and log out, and come back, have a little rest or a break, and come back and do more whenever it suits them. So we ask for a minimum of 150 sentences. The person can keep recording. The maximum is 300, and sometimes people actually say that they're enjoying it, so they want to keep going. But the minimum is 150. So again, you can see the save and log out if they decide to do it in chunks. And once they've reached the minimum, they can keep going, or they can click save and submit. And once they click that, that then starts the generation of the synthetic voice. So as I mentioned, when it's a voice repair, they are given 5 different options or versions of the voice. And this is what the screen looks like. So they can go through here a few different sentences in the different versions, so they can choose which one is their favourite. And then the final step, as you can see, is pay now or apply for funding, so people can go straight to the payment once they've listened to the voice and they know that they like it, or they can apply for funding. We currently have funding partnerships with MND Scotland and MNDA. However, people may be eligible for funding through their health board via the NHS because of the amendment to healthcare legislation, which includes synthetic voices as communication software. So the very final step is for the person to download their voice. So if it's an Apple product, you can see there's a little menu at the top. Once they have paid or successfully applied for funding, if they've applied for funding, it generally takes two days for the funding to be approved. It doesn't take very long. And so they can either receive a code for their Apple device, and this is what the app looks like. So I'm just going to go back and show you very quickly. The voices are available on multiple devices, so it can be downloaded onto an Apple device and in Windows format, which you can see here. So our app is available on the Apple App Store or on Google Play for Android, and it's available for free. The person logs in using their email address and the download code, which will appear here once they pay for their voice. And that then loads their personalised voice into the app. And this is just a little sneak peek of what the app looks like. We have information on what devices we are compatible with on our website, but we can be used on Windows machines with Communicator and Grid software. So just to offer a summary, we create high quality synthetic voices from very short recording times. The recordings are completed on a user-friendly website with tutorial videos and tips that have been designed in collaboration with healthcare professionals and patients to make it as easy as possible for people to do independently. We can repair symptoms when patient speech is already impaired, for example, if they have slurring and slowness in their speech. And we also design bespoke voices for patients with no intelligible speech. And now I would like to invite people to ask any questions that they might have.
Yeah, thank you for that, Lynda. That was very, very interesting. Yeah, if you do have any questions, and if you have a mic, feel free just to switch your mic on and speak to Lynda, or if you want to just pop it into the chat box, do so as well. I was going to ask, I mean, you know, does it get to a point where the voice is so unintelligible that you can't record it, or do you have a sort of a special algorithm that will sort it out for you?
Not so much an algorithm as the human ear. So it's quite easy for us to change the product, and we're working to allow people to change the product themselves. So if they start off thinking, oh, I can go for a voice build, and then they listen back and they think, oh, actually, you know, maybe there's a little bit of slurring that I wasn't aware of, they can change to a voice repair. And similarly, you know, people can sign up for a voice repair and record, and we can work with them to decide if it's feasible for us to repair it, or if really the line is whether the speech is intelligible without context, is whether we can repair it or not. If it's something that we can't repair, we can certainly use the recording to inform how we create then a voice voice.
Okay, so I have another question. How different are the voices when you come to the end of the sort of recording process and you have the 4 voices to choose from? Are they very different from each other? Are they quite similar?
Well, it depends. So for voice build, it's just one voice that's generated because the speech is healthy speech, so it just creates a replica of that. With voice repair, the 5 different versions, we select the 5 different versions, and we sometimes it very much depends on what the person's speech is like. Sometimes there are clear winners, if you like, so versions that are much clearer and much more natural sounding than others. We try to choose a range because actually what we found a lot during our research is that people maybe don't necessarily want the voice that's the most clear. It's what they feel sounds most like them. And sometimes that will include a synthetic voice that actually does have some symptoms, if they've had symptoms in their speech for a long time. That's maybe the voice that they feel comfortable selecting. But I think for us, the main thing is that we're offering people choice and control over what they sound like. And I think it's quite a positive thing that they can do this with their families. Quite often they think, oh, I think this voice, and the family members say, no, it's a different voice that sounds like you. It's sometimes difficult to tell what you sound like, if you know what I mean. So family members can be really invaluable in helping choose what the final voice is.
Okay, thanks. Julian's asking, she's thinking that you've been planning a child-friendly symbol-based app. Are there any developments with this?
Do you know, we have a lot of different plans, and that is one of them. We don't have a time frame for it yet, but it is something that is on our priority list that we're working on currently, along with things like adding more intonation and more emotion to the voice.
Okay, thank you. Are there any more questions for Lynda before we finish up? Rhiannon, I don't know if you're lowering your hand or if you want to use your mic to ask a question or type something in.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Hi.
Hi Lynda, this looks really, really good. My main question was, so I've had some scenarios before. I'm a speech and language therapist that works with progressive conditions. Essentially, MND is the main bulk of my caseload. Okay. And I've had some patient scenarios before now where we don't necessarily have a specific diagnosis of MND, but they're actually clinically presenting as MND. Okay. And obviously it's that awkward sort of elephant in the room of that we know what's going on, but obviously the patient doesn't. I've taken a couple of punts previously with voice banking, particularly with Model Talker, where I basically encourage the patients to basically do their voice without really saying sort of the reason why, essentially.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, so you're looking at sort of the voice build or the voice save option on the website, and I just wondered which one you'd sort of recommend in that kind of scenario, because obviously you don't want to necessarily let the cat out of the bag, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that actually, to be honest, is another reason why we don't ask for payment until the very end. In this instance, I would say it's fairly likely that they're going to go on to want a synthetic voice, so I would recommend a voice build. However, once they complete the voice build, they can listen to the sample of their synthetic voice, and then they're under no obligation to download it and use it straight away.
Right, okay.
So we don't want to sort of publicize necessarily that you can record, tons of people can go on and record and leave it there, but in the case of patients where they don't have a diagnosis but they definitely want to be proactive, or you're recommending that they're proactive, we would say record, and that way it's there, it's in voice build, so we know what we're going to do with it. We create the synthetic voice, they listen to the synthetic voice, they know it's there, but they can wait until their diagnosis comes through and then they can download it at that point.
That's brilliant. Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Rhiannon. I guess there's lots of ethical issues around voices and voice banking and okay, are there any more questions for Lynda? If not, no. Okay. Well, thanks, Lynda. That's great. Really interesting.
Thank you very much for having me.